Okay, it is Tuesday, October 15th, 2019, approximately 4:02 p.m. The Personnel Human Services will come to order, please. Roll call. Here.
Here.
Yes.
Here.
Here.
Thank you. The minutes of September 17th of 19, what's your pleasure?
Motion to approve.
Support. Then moved, supported. All in favor, signify by the usual sign.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, carried. This is time for public input. Anyone wishing to address the committee today, step forward. Thank you. If you'd state your name, please.
My name is Jeannie Willicke-Nichols. I live at 309 Green Avenue in Bay City. I have come here years in the past to talk about multiple animal issues. One was the Humane Society campaign to raise money for the animal control building, to raise awareness of the horrific kill rate years ago at animal control, and to always be an advocate for the creation of a no-kill shelter in our county. I am here to state that Humane Society of Bay County opposes the second item on consideration, resolution number 2019-250. My understanding is this resolution will restructure Administrative Services Director Craig Goulette's responsibilities to include directorship over Bay County Animal Services and Adoption Center, and to not hire a manager. Humane Society of Bay County's opinion, along with other experts, such as the Michigan Pet Fund Alliance, is that a full-time shelter director, one with new and fresh ideas, the proper credentials, and relevance experience is the crucial component to a full and lasting change in any department. With Craig Goulette's other responsibilities, he will be a half-time manager at best. Having a full-time manager was a major goal of the blueprint to bring changes to Bay County Animal Control Services and to sustain the changes. Humane Society of Bay County partnered with Bay County Animal Control and others a few years ago to come with a blueprint of best practices, which you approved. A blueprint that would pull Bay County out of the high kill rate it was known for. In today's resolution, it states that the present changes have resulted in dramatic increased donations, volunteerism, and advertising. We applaud those accomplishments. But also in that resolution is the reference to partial implementation of the written best practice document. That is concerning. Best practices should be high on the list of what the changes are happening, not a side thought. What best practices have been partially implemented? Are the cleaning sanitation protocols resulting in healthier animals? What stats are being gathered to review what's being accomplished and what needs to be done? There has been huge progress in the past 2 years at Bay County Animal Services. And there has been positive press release. There's much more that we have to do than that. There's a lot of work to be done. This is our moment in time that we can provide the opportunity to select the best candidate for this job. The failure to not open up this position to competitive hiring is a disservice to this community, to the taxpayers, and to the animals of Bay County. By simply reorganizing government to circumvent the process does not impart fairness or compassion. Deb Shutt of the Michigan Pet Fund Alliance actually offered to write the job description of qualifications as she saw through her experience throughout the state. I have to ask the county, why would we bypass that option? Why would we not allow the process to take place the way that I understand that the county has approved money for a full-time position that was supposed to start in 2020? And so why are we changing plans? So I urge you to rethink this resolution and to think about the future of the Bay County Animal Control and Adoption Center. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the committee today?
Hi, I'm Katie Loisel. I reside at 301 Nebobish Avenue in Essexville, and I'm current president of the Humane Society of Bay County. And I'm here today on behalf of the Humane Society and on behalf of myself to express opposition to the resolution number 2019-250, the second item under consideration today. I understand this resolution will restructure the Mr. Goulet's position over at Animal Services. It's my understanding this will eliminate the hiring of a full-time shelter manager. For some background on how we got to this point, in 2017, Mr. Barsha requested a committee be formed to help direct Bay County Animal Services on a path to no-kill and more humane practices, which it has come a long way, and we are very happy for that. But it should be noted that when shelters incorporate best practices, all best practices that is, the result is saving all healthy and treatable animals, in turn making animals more adoptable, and the shelter can then be considered no-kill if 90% or more of the animals are live released. So no-kill does not simply mean reducing the rate of euthanasia. It's a combination of several factors that helps create a no-kill environment. This committee included representatives from the local rescues, as well as experts from Mid-Michigan Pet Fund Alliance. This committee was overseen by Mr. Goulet's predecessor, Deb Russell. The plan was published in that same year and can be viewed on the Animal Services webpage. From an outside perspective, it seems that since Deb Russell retired, much of this plan has been at standstill, and the committee, which was intended to be ongoing, has ceased to meet. I'd also like to note that it was recommended in this plan that a full-time shelter manager be put in place at Animal Services. Deb Schutt from Michigan Pet Fund Alliance volunteered to create the ideal job description for this position and to assist with hiring. This evidently is not what's happening at this time, and somewhere the train went off the tracks. By passing this resolution, you'll be doing a disservice to our citizens and local animals by not creating a full-time shelter manager position in which a qualified, experienced individual can devote all of their work time to improving operations and conditions at Animal Services. The shelter belongs to the citizens of Bay County, and we should have more of a say in the direction it is headed. The shelter has had a bad reputation for a long time, and it is time for fresh ideas, a higher knowledge of animal welfare, and for unaddressed issues to be solved. I do not feel that the shelter can reach its full potential for serving our animals or community unless an individual is hired from the outside. I did some research today regarding job descriptions and requirements for shelter managers. Many require applicants to have at least 3 years of experience in a shelter, in a rescue or a veterinary environment. They also require educational coursework involving pet sciences, animal disease prevention, shelter sanitation, and animal handling and behavior. Good knowledge of commonly used pharmaceuticals was also preferred in many descriptions. Almost all of them required a good understanding of industry best practice and animal welfare. One of these best practices would include sanitation. Although there have been some improvements at the shelter, there are still many pitfalls. Nearly every cat we have pulled from the shelter in recent months has been severely ill, and we have lost kittens that were born from pregnant felines housed there that were ill. Sanitation is the key to preventing these types of illnesses. This has been a known issue in the shelter, and it's an issue that should have already been addressed. Our organization has had little luck in collaborating with Animal Services. We have been routinely sharing Animal Services posts on our Facebook page to help promote animals and events at the shelter, but Animal Services has yet to reciprocate the gesture. We have also been attempting to get Animal Services involved in our TNR program for several years, as we are completely inundated with requests for this service. We still have had no efforts from Animal Services to collaborate with us for TNR, even though feral and community cats are a huge issue in our county. I would also like to add that part of Animal Services' strategic plan for best practices includes supplementing Humane Society's efforts for TNR. The goal date for this to begin was May 2018. Perhaps some of the goals addressed in the strategic plan would be in place now or in the near future if there is a shelter manager dedicated only to shelter operations and projects. With that being said, this is a great opportunity for you as a commission to make a move for real change for animal welfare in our county. I recommend you oppose Resolution 2019-250 and help us get on a path for true change.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the committee?
Hello, I'm Steph Stender. I'm a volunteer with the Humane Society, but I reside here in Bay City at 218 North Grant. I'm an advocate here. I got involved with the Humane Society earlier this year, and I stand here in opposition of Resolution 2019-250. The resolution was made by a special meeting, and none of us were prepared, I don't think, because we just found out about it last night, so we're a little distressed about it. I don't know that I can say any more than what Jeannie and Katie have already said. Just that our biggest concern, our mission with the Humane Society is that we're going to ensure animals in Bay County are well taken care of, and we're going to continue to rescue, do the TNR program, but we're supposed to be able to have you're supposed to be able to have our backs and also support us because we support you, and there's no give there with animal control right now. And the no-kill shelter status is like a great goal, but at this point, when animals are coming to us and dying within 24 hours from animal control, what's the point of the no-kill status? Like, that's what we really are most concerned about, is the lives of the animals in Bay County that are going to be affected, because leadership takes a lot of time. A full-time job, doing the administrative job that he's doing, on top of running a shelter full-time, is a lot of us volunteer full-time hours for the Humane Society on top of working full-time work. And we can tell you it's exhausting, and we know that that's just going to go by the wayside if we don't hire an external manager for the shelter. And we just can't have more dead animals on our hands because we don't have control over what animal control does. And we're running out of funds trying to make these animals that we're getting from animal control better. So it's really important that we get some support from animal control, and you consider our opposition, take it pretty seriously, because it's animals and Bay County's lives at stake, and the community too. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the committee? Seeing none? Moving under Petitions and Communications from the County Executive. Bangor DDA Agreement. What is your pleasure?
So moved. Support.
Then moved and supported. Any discussion? Commissioner Kuna.
Now, this is going to go to the full board, correct? Or is this going to be approved right after this meeting?
It's full board.
Well, maybe they can, give us some numbers, how much from the fund balance they have in there and what we're going to get, and some of the information that has already been agreed upon. So between now and the full board, maybe we can get some additional idea of how much additional revenue is going to be coming into the county's coffers for 2020.
Can we do that, John?
Sure, I'd be supportive of that. I'm very disappointed by the people who spoke, and I think they failed to recognize the major progress we've made with a 96-point live release rate with transfers and adoptions. But they've not been involved with the animal shelter either in the since I've been the county executive. I haven't seen maybe a couple stop in, volunteer over the last 2.5, 3 years. But yeah, I just want the people in the audience to know that the board has not approved. That was my recommendation, to go to a full-time manager. But I understand we may have difficulty getting approval from the board, and Mr. Redmond has not signed off on it, and I believe not intending to include it in the budget that the board will be voting on. So thanks. Yeah, we're trying to make progress, but, you can't give any credit of what we've tried to do. So I guess it says a lot about HSBC too. So I'm very disappointed with the remarks I've heard. Craig has really worked. What's that?
Well, we've already had our public comment, and we'll talk about this issue again coming up. Commissioner Lutz had.
We're going to vote on this at a special meeting later today, so what numbers do you need, Kim?
What dollar?
The DDA thing.
Do we have any numbers?
You told-
I don't think that I can actually give you specific numbers that you would be able to count on other than what the formula is going to be, which is a guaranteed pass-through rate of 50%, and at the end of the year, a true-up. So at no point in time would the DDA ever have more than $500,000 in its coffers at the end of the year. So we would be getting money throughout the course of the year during the time, at the time the taxes are collected and captured and passed through. And at the end of the year, we would also receive a lump sum. But if they have different projects that are going on throughout the course of the year, they may have one project that's a $200,000 project that would reduce the income that comes into the county by that amount. So I can't estimate for you what projects they may or may not have. All I can tell you is the formula is any pass-through would be 50%, and at the end of the year, if they have more than $500,000 in the bank, that amount would be turned back over as well.
I guess what I was looking for is how much they got in the fund balance right now and what would be coming back to the general fund this year, 2020.
Go ahead.
I actually believe that Commissioner
Granger.
has
Thank you.
better numbers than I
In the
do.
meeting, there was Commissioner Krieger, myself, and Commissioner Lutz. At the last meeting we were at, they had $785,000 in their account. And at that time, there was no expenditures expected. That was 30 days ago or so.
So we'll see somewhat close to $300,000
We should
of
see.
additional revenue.
Yes, and an additional requirement of this revenue sharing agreement is that the DDA not incur any additional debt. So we won't be looking at a larger project where they would have to bond anything out or go into debt. Also, that it would be a required sunset of the DDA after a 10-year period.
The DDA or the taxing increment,
Well, the development plan would last for 10 years and expire.
Yeah,
The
you-
DDA itself doesn't expire until
Right.
affirmative action is taken to make.
well, you mentioned that the DDA would go away. It's not the DDA.
The DDA, we would be requiring the DDA to sunset unless we enter into another agreement. The development plan would also expire after a period of 10 years.
So of that 800,000 that they have in there, I thought that if there was a project, they got to come to the board to get approval.
No, the fail-safe that was put in place was that they would have to pass through 50% of whatever came in, and that would prevent them from doing any large project
Bob's guessing.
throughout the course of the year.
Mr. Redmond?
Well, I haven't seen any agreement, but it certainly wasn't my understanding that they were going to capture any money. Well, the capture was supposed to stop. They were not supposed to have more than $500,000 in the fund balance. If there was a new project, brand new project, they had to come to the board for approval. So I don't know why you want to pass on it before you get to see the agreement. That was in the detail.
The meeting I was at, I thought it was 50%, 500,000 was kind of the two.
That was reflected in my notes as well as the notes of the representative from the DDA.
Well, we're not going to approve this today, though, right? Why don't we refer this to the full board and get the agreement and see what's in the agreement?
Okay.
I'll refer it to the full board.
That's a motion.
Yes.
Support.
Pardon?
Because we have a full board after this meeting.
No, not this one. The full, the normal full board.
Okay, there's a motion to refer this resolution to the November board meeting. Commissioner Lutz.
Question, does that work within the time frame needed?
The revenue, the expiration of the current development plan is November 22nd. The township has to put out notification prior to that to all of the entities, but I believe that it's only 20-day notification. One way or another, the special board meeting has to be called. We can make sure that that happens. So we're in compliance. So you have a chance to look at the revenue sharing agreement first.
So what you're saying is that we can wait to the full board?
No.
No, she said you can't.
You would have to call a special board meeting prior to that point in time.
Mr. Redmond?
They can move forward to keep their DDA to extend it another 10 years. And that has no effect on our agreement.
Well, the development sharing agreement is going to be reflected in our revenue sharing agreement and development plan is also going to be included in their development plan that they're going to be passing by ordinance and resolution with Bangor Township. So
They can continue the DDA without us,
the DDA continues on its own unless it's
right?
appropriately
We have
extinguished.
nothing to say about them, the DDA continuing or not, it's up to the township.
The only difference is that if the development plan is not extended and it is allowed to expire, there is a chance that the amount of the tax base will change. So I would be more than happy to go back to Bangor's attorney and see what date we need to have a meeting by and ensure that the meeting.
I'm surprised you're not represented here today.
And all I've received at this point in time is the memo. I haven't received the actual
What's the date today?
ordinance.
They only need to post a special meeting for 3 days, don't they?
It would be us calling a special meeting.
Well, we'll have that meeting on the 7th, or whenever
It'd be too
you're...
late.
Too late, yeah, we have that one next week.
November. I thought they said November
They have
21st.
They have 20 days, it's gonna be 20 days of the 20.
Is it
Cool enough.
November, any date in November, soon enough or not?
I don't believe it would be soon enough because of the fact that notice has to be put out of the plan that's going to be agreed to prior to the expiration.
We would theoretically need one next week.
Yeah, and I can find out whether or not we need it in time to call a special.
Commissioner Coonan?
I wasn't in any of these meetings, but I heard that there was and I don't even know what the plans are, but that there was going to be no capture unless they had a specific project. And the reason I asked how much money would we be getting, because I heard, I think, Amber, you mentioned something that they had some expenditures for small projects. Well, I thought they were going to come to us on any project. Then they would start to capture, but they would not capture until then. And we would get all of our tax dollars, instead of the 50%, we'd be getting the 100% unless they came up with a project. So I'm not quite sure. I don't like to agree on things that if we haven't even seen what the agreement is.
That was not my understanding based on the meeting. Discussion was had whether or not the parties wanted to be in a position where the DDA was coming back to the board for any small project that they had on hand. My understanding from the meeting, and again, my understanding was reflected by the Bangor attorney as well, was that it would be a 50% pass-through, and at the end of the year, the true-up, so there would be no more than $500,000 in the bank at any given time.
What identifies a small project?
That's the problem.
Yeah. How do we agree on something we don't even know what's in the agreement?
Mr. Redmond?
When there's a new project, they have to come to us anyway to capture, period.
If they're not capturing any taxes.
How can they capture the amount of money we think, or they think they need to pay for a new project when we don't have a project in front of us to analyze? They have almost $900,000 in the kitty. I don't think they're going to spend that in a month. So, if it takes us 2 extra weeks or 3 extra weeks, we're entering again into a 10-year agreement where they capture our taxes. I think we ought to see it.
So we, at the present, has a motion and a support to refer to a board, upcoming full board meeting, not the meeting following today's meeting. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by the usual sign. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Carried. Under 2, Reorganization of Administrative Services Department. What is your pleasure?
So moved.
Support.
Move and supported. Commissioner Coonan.
Well, this is another issue that we may be better off referring this to get, some questions answered. And I'm not saying I disagree with this, and I'm not saying that we ever agreed to a full-time position. And that was in the budget for 2020. So, I'd like to refer this one as well and see if we can come to some sort of consensus or at least get some questions answered. I don't see where a couple of weeks would hinder anything.
I'd support that.
Move and supported. I guess, are there any questions? I see none. Commissioner Krieger.
I do. What it comes down to listen what was done under public input. I won't say it was a disgrace as far as my feelings of what we've accomplished over the couple of years and the turnaround of how things were to where we are today. If this has been going on and things have been this bad, I would have hoped with the concerns that they're showing today that we would have heard this within the last 2 years. So all of a sudden to have this all come crashing down today, I'm disappointed in it. So that's my 2 cents.
I have a question and a comment. The first comment I have is, 4 years ago, I looked what we had with animal control, and it doesn't look anything the same. I mean, there's been leaps and strides that we've made with this, and I know we can't have utopia. It's, and especially when we're, dealing with revenue, it used to be there was a heck of a lot more revenue than there is today, and every decision we make is based on that. Whether it's people or animals, and I pick people first certainly, but I have 3 dogs and 2 cats. Two cats are rescued. 1 dog is rescued. So, I have a heart for that as well. But it really gets into revenue and the money that we have and how we spend that money to provide the services, great services, I might add, that the county provides. I think we all need to remember where we were 4 years ago and take a look at where we are today. And that doesn't mean that in the future we won't improve what we have. I mean, we're actually talking about a millage, right, for animal control. So there's, it's better than this, is what I'm saying. This isn't a dire thing, and I think it's better than this, and I applaud the job that Mr. Barsha and the commission has done, to make those strides happen here. So I want to say that. And I guess I do have a question on this, and it's the cost. I thought at one time I was told that it was a $1,200 difference. And if that's changed, I guess I'd like to know and why it's changed and how it's changed. I'd like to have those answers. So if you could, Amber or whoever.
The $1,200 amount that was listed in the original memorandum dealt with salaries. It didn't deal with the additional 15% for FICA and all of the other benefits that get assessed to the general fund, because I was just looking at salaries and not that additional amount.
Okay.
I also was very clear in my memo that I was basing this on the assumption that the requested animal control manager from the county executive was going to be a full-time position. So I want everyone to understand that the numbers that I provided, we're assuming that the county executive's request for a full-time manager was approved in the 2020 budget. The additional cost over and above that in terms of salary would be $1,200. Since that point in time, Commissioner Lutz did request that our finance director come up with some numbers for him with regards to those positions. If we go upon that same assumption that the board would have approved the full-time animal services director, the additional cost to the county, if we also include that additional 15% that's assessed for FICA and make the most conservative budget assumptions that the new position would, for the PDO4 position, would take full family medical, that additional cost to the county would increase, and it would actually be $3,931 based on 2020 numbers for the 2020 budget. One thing I would note that's important to note is that all of the additional costs that are added for the administrative portion are central service costs, and those get billed out in our indirect cost structure, our indirect cost plan throughout the course of the year. Consistently, our department has billed out about 27% of those indirect costs to outside funding sources, such as grants. So the amount of money, the additional increased amount that we would be looking at adding for the administrative portion of that, approximately $19,800 would be billed to grants or other outside services. So that would actually amount to a net savings to the general fund of approximately $15,800. But again, that is based on the assumption that the board was going to approve the full-time animal control director position that was requested in the county executive's budget.
Thank you. Commissioner Coonan.
Thank you, sir. And I did ask for those numbers last week or 2 weeks ago and got them just a few minutes ago. And there is no guarantee that any position is going to be changed from part-time, which exists now, to full-time. So the numbers could be somewhat different. But I don't like making decisions, getting information at the last minute on hypotheticals. And that's the reason that I asked for it to be referred, so we can get additional information so that we can make a sound decision, not based upon, something getting dropped on your desk, and nothing against the information, Amber, at all. But I guess ultimately, we're the people that make the decision, and I just like to make the decision based upon the best information available.
Thank you. Commissioner Bradshaw.
Another thing we have to consider in this reorganization is part of the duties are going to be for the Department of Veterans Affairs. We've got a lot of, we have a department now, so there's things that have to be done there, and it's going to take a tremendous amount of work. That's why half of his time or so, maybe a third, will be devoted to this Department of Veterans Affairs to try and bring that all up to where it should be. Just want to make that out, that it's not just about animal control.
Thank you. Commissioner Begic.
I second that comment. Yes, Veterans Affairs is bigger now, it's expanded quite a bit. I like the idea of having them more full-time versus doing the other stuff. So, thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, we're voting on the motion. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Jim.
Well, I'll make comment after. Go ahead.
You sure?
Yeah.
So we're voting on whether to refer is the motion, and there was a support. All in favor, signify by the usual sign.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The ayes have it. From the Bay County Clerk, we have a Typist Clerk 3 vacancy.
So moved.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by the usual sign. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Carried. From the Bay County Prosecutor, Assistant Prosecuting Attorney vacancy, what is your pleasure?
So moved.
Support.
They're moved and supported. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by the usual sign.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carried. From the Personnel Director, we have a one-line sheet in front of you. That's what we're going to go by here. We already did the County Clerk. Under 2, we have, and we did the Prosecutor. Under 3, we have 911 Central Dispatch, full-time. What is your pleasure?
So moved.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by the usual sign. Aye. Opposed, same sign, carried. From the Department on Aging, we have a cook, new position, full-time, a case manager, workers, 2 full-time.
So moved.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by the usual sign.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, carried. From the Community Center, Typist clerk, a new position.
So moved.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Discussion, Commissioner Coonan.
Thank you, sir. Beth, how did, and I'm not against this position at all, but, you know, you can't be there 80 hours a week, and the community center's open early and closes late. How do we go about monitoring people that go into the workout facility and there's a charge if nobody's around? Or is this...
Then we have a referral new system that we implemented this year, and they all have a scan card that come through and scan it on the scanner.
Can they get in without doing that?
Yeah, they walk in the front door, it's open.
Oh, not the front door, I'm talking about where they go in to work out.
Yeah, it's all just open, come in, scan, go into the bit.
But if you, and I'm not, you know, I think it's a nice facility to keep people off the streets, even if, but I'm sure if we have nobody there, there's people just walking in and working out.
Right. That, and one of the things that's positive about the scan system was exactly that one. I only had a part-time, person not there, like in the afternoon, Keith's there doing cleaning, people walk in, and we would have people just coming in the building security-wise to not have everybody on the front desk is a little bit scary for me to be, and I could be in teaching and someone can just walk in
And is this a position for the day?
for the day.
What do we do at night?
At night, well, at night he comes at 3 and kind of watches the desk from 3 to 5, and then those are like business hours over, and then he starts his cleaning, and it's just not staffed
I understand
to
that.
the utopia.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but what time does the community center close? About
At 9 at night.
9? Okay. So if Keith's cleaning, he might see somebody or, see what's going on.
Yeah, yes, right, and we close off the office is closed, and all they can do is scan in, we can get in the office to get to the money or anything like that, but again, somebody could just walk in, it's just the way we've been running the business.
And then you got basketball and all that stuff at night.
Sometimes there's a community service person there helping Keith, so there's at least maybe possibly 2 people in the building at night, but for the most part, he's there by himself too.
All right. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by the usual sign. Aye. Opposed, same sign, carried. From the Health Officer, independent contractor agreement with Elizabeth Kitchen, nurse practitioner. What is your pleasure?
So moved. Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by the usual sign. Aye. Opposed, same sign, carried. 2, the extension of children's special health care services. What is your pleasure?
So moved.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by the usual sign.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, carried. 3, amendment to the fiscal year 2019 through 2020 comprehensive planning, budgeting, and contracting. What is your pleasure?
So moved. Support.
Been moved and supported. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by the usual sign.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, carried. Any referrals? Unfinished business. New business. Miscellaneous. Mr. Barsha.
Well, to continue the discussion, with our friends from Humane Society, I think we've spent about $15,000 of a very limited budget. We're working with Dr. Stu Frankie, I think, who supports HSBC, who evaluates all of our cats and dogs prior to adoption. And we have been, with the revenues we have, been very generous in treating all of our animals. The difference between animal shelter, Bay County, and Main Society can afford to be very selective about what you accept from the public in the way of adoption. Whereas people come in, the entire 105,000 people that reside in Bay County, we've had people come in and drop off a box of 10 cats and walk out. We have limited space. I know Humane Society has 6 cages for cats, 0 for dogs, correct? No, that's what I know. We have, what do we have, Craig, for dogs and cat cages?
Over 40.
Total 40?
Yeah, over 40 for both.
Over 40 for both. So, we do the best we can. We have a wait list. I think your organization has a wait list, but I think, Katie, for you to say that we haven't been in communication, you had 5 people in my office last week for over an hour. And Jeannie, we met for a couple of hours, probably 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, talking about our plans, talking about a millage, requesting, hopefully all on the same page to have a full-time manager as opposed to part-time. And I'm just really disappointed. We are implementing the best practices, and it wasn't designed to be a continual process. It compiled a document, was voted on by the board, and that is what's being implemented at our Bay County Animal Shelter. And with regard to Craig's job, I think he's done an outstanding job. We have 20 to 25 people daily who come in and walk our dogs to get them exercise and fresh air. Volunteers through the Facebook page was created for our Animal Services and Adoption Center. Have paid for all of the beds, $90 a piece, and the dog cages. I believe the cat cages, $60 per bed. They all have beds. We're interacting with the animals to help them, make them more adaptable, so they're not so anxious. And so when people come in to have them, they're more playful, they're less anxious, they're much more adaptable. So I know you have foster programs. I don't know how many animals you have, but we're in a position where the public comes in, and we don't have the luxury of being selective. We can put them on the list, but basically people consider it a service. When they want to get rid of their animal, they bring it to us. I think we've come a long way, where we were in 2011 with a 70% kill rate. And now a 3% kill rate. Apparently it isn't good enough for some people. I'm disappointed. We don't have the ability to fundraise like Humane Society does. So anyway, it's up to the board to go with the full-time. I'm not sure if this will derail the support we had for a full-time manager, but it's unfortunate timing. I know who I spoke to that incited this little presentation tonight, so very disappointed in that person as well. So that person aspired to be a full-time manager, but doesn't live in the region, so, and would have no intention of moving here either if they got the job. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all I have to say.
Any announcements? See none, motion to adjourn is in order.
Motion adjourned.
Support. All in favor, signify by your sign.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, carried. We're adjourned.